about synchronicities. Yay. Oh, those are always fun.
They're nice. Usually it's very soothing to hear about synchronicities for ourselves and others. People talk about it and I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
So if you've had any synchronicities I can't say this word, synchronicities lately, or if you notice them, put in the comments which ones you've seen lately, or if you had only one happen, put it in the comments because we would love to hear about that. It is fun because you're always like, oh my God, so weird.
Especially when you haven't noticed them most of your life, and all of a sudden you're getting them, and it becomes like a thing, and you're like, what is this? Like, for instance, like, I mean, there's subtle ones. There's people like seeing feathers here and there, and somehow it aligns to them somehow. But then I notice within myself, and as well as some of my friends that don't really notice these things, they're not really as in touch with certain aspects. They're like, I don't know why, but I keep looking at the clock, and it's always this set of numbers, and we're kind of like, yeah, that is strange, isn't it? So I started to get a lot. Did you have any today?
Today, I don't think, not yet, but I do get a lot with numbers. Like 222 is usually, or like doubles, like 1313 or 1212. And we can go, right, you can go into mirror numbers, 1221, right? They all mean something. I usually I do have a list that I found online that I use to interpret, but you can always write your own, which I always encourage people to do. Never done myself. I find that very interesting.
For me to write something diviningly is like I made charts for my pendulum. But I haven't done what you said, though. I haven't tried to make certain numbers mean certain things and then have it show up. I haven't tried that yet. It's interesting one. I usually allow more than like try to find it. I like to be like, hey, can you show me something? But actually, once I started getting them, I think because they start recognizing, or we start recognizing that becomes a thing, that's when it starts to increase potentially. I think when I started, it was like little numbers here and there. But then after a while, it was like constant. It felt like it's constant, like everywhere. Right now, my to go, I guess, is 2332, the mirror, and then 6996. And the meaning kind of shifted. The 23 is the same. It's basically 5 when you add the 2 and 3 together. It's about change, and it's always been a number that I had my whole life. It was always important to me, and I never really knew why, but I really recognized that throughout my whole life it's about change, and I like change, and it's never a bad thing to me for the most part anyway. So 23 made sense, but then the 6996 came around. At first, you look at the two different numbers. The 6 and the 9 means different things. And then you can group them together to mean something else. And so, for like the 23, for instance, trying to remember which one's which, but one is more about like the energies of the ascended masters, the more supportive of you right now, or you have your spiritual guides with you. They're really present right now. You just want to, acknowledge that for yourself and know you're not alone, kind of thing. But they're there, but they're proud of you for doing what you're doing. So when you put it together, it's time for change in this. But then the 69 and the 96, at first it was only 69. It was not 96 until recently when it's shifted. But when I first realized what the 69 meant, for me, in the moment, 6 is like after the change. It's the number after change. It's the one that like now you have some challenges to figure out how to make that change and live that change and whatnot. Things that happen after the 5. And then the 9 is like once you get there, once you get over that, then you'll get to the 9, which is almost abundance, but it's in that line towards abundance. You're going the right way. So that's what I saw it as for the longest time, until more recently I realized that the 69 and very much is like the Cancer symbol in astrology. It's also the yin and yang, which is all about balance, like how one goes into the other. And there's a lot of polarities, but it also blends together, and it's actually really beautiful. So now they're emphasizing the 69 by making it a 96 and saying things are really shifting now. And for me anyway, it could mean other things.
So how did you come up to this realization? Is it something that you found on the internet, or this is just your thoughts really realizing this throughout a specific process?
Well, I looked up in the beginning what the 9s and the 6s could mean, and you go with your own intuition, because there's a lot of meanings behind so many different perspectives. So you gather what really works for you, and you can feel it, and you have to allow that feeling to be like, yeah, that's it. That's aligned to me somehow. It might not be clear. I might not be exact. It might not be exactly right, but whichever the case, it came to me, and I go with it. I could feel it in like, as I'm doing things, those numbers would come and be like, yeah, this is what's happening. Like, this is how it feels like in the moment. So it's a lot of it. It's internal and it's intuitive, but you can look it up for like an inspiration of, to kind of label it a little bit. If you label it, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense. Or sometimes I'll do that for other numbers that I don't recognize, or like, dreams can be synchronicities sometimes too. And you can get messages. So to me, it's like a connection to something more that we need to understand more. So it's a form of divining what is happening around us and what needs to be heard. So yeah, you're going to say.
I feel like it's a silent support system.
Yeah.
It's silent because you're not necessarily hearing someone telling you openly, we got you, we're here, because sometimes the conscious mind will not accept that. Not everyone actually notices numbers. Some people notice. I believe I started with butterflies. And it is what you decide to put to that meaning. Whatever is the meaning that you want to put. Again, remember, everything has to do with the conscious mind of what you decide to believe. So my belief for butterflies was that it's my dad. My dad passed away a while back. And I would see butterflies in October. Granted, I'm in Florida now, but I used to live back north, and kind of late for butterflies to be there in October. Or another thing that one year I remember, I would find lots and lots of change. Like it could be pennies, dimes, whatever it is. But again, it was very much connected with my dad. That was also my sign, that just him being like, I got you, I'm here. You're going through something, just supporting you. It was very soothing in that sense.
I mean, you see that, or you hear that a lot in mediumship work. And I've done that myself, where people are guided to an object or something that really represents something for the person still here. And it's a very comforting thing for them. And they'll recognize it. And that's the synchronicity you see. Like once you see this butterfly or a dragonfly or this flower, it connects you to that individual, even if it is energetic, but at the same time, it can very much be the case. It's something that, like you said, is very silent and subtle, but it's there. So, yeah.
There's a book. I cannot remember what the name of it is, but I will find it. I'll put it in the comments, the book that I'm talking about. But the book talks about, essentially, it's about how to notice signs, but also how to create your own signs. You can sit down with yourself and you can talk to, let's say if you have someone that was close to you that passed away, and you can tell them, how about this, if you're nearby or whenever you're nearby, I will see a dove. You can specify a white dove, it does not matter. You can specify, it can be a red bear. And you will just start noticing, keep your eye out, is that even a word? Is that even the saying? But just notice things, and it can come not necessarily, like, let's say a white dove. It does not mean that you will physically see a white dove. It could be in a magazine. It could be you're reading to your child, and all of a sudden on that page that you're reading, there's a white dove or a red bear, whatever it is that you will choose. Because they are there, when I say they, loved ones, whoever you want, whoever it is that you're trying to contact, your guides. They're always there. They're always listening. Remember, we are going through this experience, and they're always there to help us. We are kind of a big deal for everyone else out there because we chose to have this experience and to go through it. So they're always there watching. We are their best entertainment.
Yes.
Someone did ask in channeling once, well, what do you guys do like for entertainment? And the answer was, we watch you. I mean, it's just the best entertainment ever.
It's
so
better than TV, I think.
right?
But actually, the way you're talking, it's very much like, we also manifest these things. This is basically what that tool you're suggesting is in that book is you're asking them, but you're also manifesting that in their future. Like that's what you want and the feeling you want with that connection and everything. You can totally bring that in. But as you're talking, you're also making me realize we had a synchronicity in our podcast. A few episodes ago, we were talking about manifestation, and I was talking about the little 4-leaf clover scenario. Yeah. And then after we'll put a link below. After that recording, later that day, I found a 4-leaf clover. There's a synchronicity. I knew it was a synchronicity at that. I was not looking for, I didn't ask for clover, but it happened because I feel like our guides, Sophia's and mine, are like excited that we finally did what we're doing. Like we're making this podcast work. We're consistent with it. We're doing our thing and sharing with the world our little intricacies and it's okay. It's great and wonderful, and they love it. So they gave us the support and they say, hey, look, here's a 4-leaf clover just for you. She talked about it. Yes. So yeah, and I mean, I think it's such a fine line with all these things because everything's energy and everything is intentional on a level. We might not see it that way because we're so ingrained to only see the physical and express the sensory inputs and be like, oh, only that's real because we can see it, smell it, touch it. But once we realize it's more than that and we allow that to be in our conscious perception of reality, that's when things start to be more subtle like this. With those numbers popping up out of the blue, even though you're a logical person and you're like, this stuff is hogwash. I don't know what you're talking about, you guys. But then it's like, but yeah, I do keep seeing those numbers. Like, how do you explain it? You can't really explain it in a really scientific way for those things when that start happening. So,
well, we would say probability.
Right. Well, yeah, they might try to throw in probability.
It's the probability of you finding this or seeing this and yada, 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 right? So that will be a scientific explanation. And again, we're all very different. It's a choice what you want to believe, and whatever you believe is correct for you.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something that essentially, even with noticing the numbers, that is in a way us creating our own reality. Right? We are, in a way, communicating this way with ourselves. And what does that mean? When I say we're communicating with ourselves, it is our higher self. Because in my mind, we're all connected on the other side. So it's not only your guides, your ancestors, but it is your soul, your higher self, communicating with you that way. And I have to tell you, the higher self can also send funny things. Because this is a story, and I don't know if it will be, well, let me tell you the story. I was going to a store, it's a kid's store, and on the parking lot, there was a tiny, like it was this big, I believe maybe it was on someone's keychain. I'm not sure how it will ended up there, but it said, it was like engraved, it was made out of wood, and it said, mind your tits. And I was like, that's me leaving for me. That's just hilarious. Mind you, we're also, again, this is a kid's store. This is a children's store. It's not a big mall or anything of that sort. It's a kid's store. And right as I'm walking out, because I didn't see it when we were walking in, or maybe it's the opposite. I saw it when we were walking in, but it was right there. I'm like, that's definitely me. I'm leaving it for me, just to laugh at.
Did you? Did you?
I did, and it was hilarious. I picked it up. I probably have it somewhere. I don't know. I did pick it up. Yes.
That is funny. Yeah,
And
it
that's
can be
very
funny.
good advice too. Just letting you know. I'm not going to repeat it, but it's a very good advice.
For everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, it could be funny, it could be sweet, it could be any of those things. Typically, it's not something that would make you feel bad. Typically, it will make you feel more comforted in all those things. I think the most negative I've ever felt with it is just that I'll see these numbers so constantly, like, okay, guys, that makes sense, but what the F? Like, what is going on here? Like, what are you trying to tell me? And I couldn't figure it out. So I think that'd be more the problem when it comes. And I'm, like I said, once it starts coming, it can, if it's something that you works, something that works, I think is the best way. Like, if they know that you're hearing it and you know that you like it, you can get more of it. And I think that's what happened for me. And I didn't again, it wasn't a conscious thought. It was like, I want more synchronicities, please. Like, show me everything everywhere. Like, I wasn't looking for that. But in fact, in my conscious mind would be doubting it. I think that happens a lot too with regards to all these things, because our mind's like, this doesn't make sense. This is a coincidence. It's like that probability scenario. Like, it's just a high probability because it just happened to be a certain way, or you're just more hyper aware of those things now. But you can say that, but then when I see them, especially like that 6996 thing, like 23. Okay, for a long time it was just these numbers separate, and a lot of times it was because I drive a lot. It's on like license plates.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just license plates, but it's everywhere. But that's one place that it will be. But then as things shift, like I said, as things were evolving, it started to shift. Not only did they flip the mirror around of the numbers to me, they started putting those numbers in one license plate. Well, no. At first, it was separate cars, separate places. But then they started to do it right, two cars parked next to each other. It'll be like one was 69 and then there's a 23. And then gradually now I'm seeing like those numbers just flip-flops on one license plate. So it's like you get that. And then I hear that with my friends too who get other ones. Mine is numbers more, but I have a friend that really attracts feathers. I don't ever get feathers. I'm kind of envious of the ones who gets feathers. I maybe got one feather once. Every time, everyone else always notices the feathers before I see the feathers. But it'll be like, I'll be with her, and she'll come up with a new feather, a different feather, a different color one, a different style one. I'm like, where are you seeing these? Where are these birds? Right? So it was very individual too. Like you get what works with you, and it could be a good thing. But I think sometimes, I don't know many times that it'll be anything like negative, right? I don't think it's so much negative connotations of
Well, they usually, it depends. I guess if you put together your own list and then you put on there, well, 111 is going to be danger, right? I wouldn't recommend that. I would stick to positive, mostly positive and supporting, because at some point, and I do wonder, right? Where is that point of too much? Right? Where is that point of too much? Noticing too much.
Well, where does it go? Like, what do you do with it? I think that's more the question. Like, what does that mean to you? Do you live your life around these messages, or is it just something that touches you? Like,
for example, right now, just as we're talking, because we do have I see a little timer going as to how long we've been filming, and it was 21:12. It's already past that. At the moment, I kind of like looked at the time and wow, 21:12, right? That's our same. We're talking about mirror image, right? So I can go, and it depends, right? I can accept it and be like, yes, it is something, or I can be like, it's nothing, and just continue with my life. Right? There's always that choice. But I wonder, and this is just me being a devil's advocate, how much should we rely, if there is even a should, so how much should we rely on these?
Well, that's the thing. If you're using the word rely, what are you relying on? What are you getting out of it? If it's something that you made it into something that you are taking something from, that's what rely to me, like you're leaning on something else external. This is, to me, when it comes to at least that's how I go about it. I don't know if anyone else, but when I see the messages, the synchronicities, it's more of like a, hey, hi, like, great job, or something like really, but I'm not like saying, oh, where's my sync right now? Guys, tell me you're listening to me. Tell me that you're here, like, I need you to be here right now. Like, I don't go into those spaces, even though, everyone goes into those spaces at times, but I'm not like, show me a number now so that I know that you're here and helping me. It's like, that's when it goes too far, in my opinion. That's when it's like, you're not taking it for what it's worth, and that they're coming to you and saying, hey, we're here, believe it. But versus I'm here to be gotten, like we're commanding, we're controlling them, our guidance to be there for us is like, no, I think you're right. The way we think about it and how we take the information in is as important as getting them. Once we start getting them, what do we do with it? Do we take it as a positive, like, okay, that's what it is, but it's not gonna make my world work. Like, people who go to get like psychic readings constantly, it's like, where's my life going? It's like, no, you live your life, you make your choices, you can look into a potential future, but what do you want to do with that? Is that something you want to guide to that? If not, then do something else. It's just an opportunity to have a glimpse of possibility. How do you process information you have gotten to you? So anyway, I think
we're going into the right direction, where you're talking about, not relying, not making it your crutch in a way, right? Not making your way of life. Well, if I didn't see the numbers, I'm not doing this.
Right.
No, that's not how it's meant to be. And it's more of just the support if you need it. But, or this was a different
one. Even a need. It's not even a need. Putting the need to it is already putting something on that belief that it's something external that you are grasping onto. And then I'm sorry, but I've always liked to advocate against anything crutchy instead of cringy, crutchy.
Synchronicities can be very different as well, I feel like, right? Not only numbers or feathers or anything like that. Like, for example, I had a meeting once, and it was a 40-minute drive with a lot of traffic lights. And every traffic light was green. And even if I remember driving closer, I can see the next traffic light and it's red. And I was like, oh, finally, one red one. And as I'm coming closer, it's green.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, something here. What they're telling me is, okay, I'm on the right path. They're giving me green light. Going.
Keep going.
I didn't ask for it. But I guess there was a need to show it to me for whatever reason. I probably needed it. So it's kind of silent support.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say that you shouldn't ask on occasion if you want to ask, just in general. Like, I think it's worthwhile asking if you're trying to gain clarity and you're trying really hard on your own, and then you just meet up a wall, whether it's something your conscious mind blocks or whatever. So then it's like, it's okay. Hey guys, do you mind if you could show me in some way I'm doing the right thing, or show me in some way, just subtly, just kind of thing. I think that's okay. I think it's like, and I think that happens too, and you get it. I feel like a lot of people get that, and this part can be a bit scientific, and I think they've done some studies on this, where like you ask the question before bed because your mind and everything is a certain, hypnotic way, and when you ask it, by the time you wake up, somehow the answer comes to you, whether it's a guidance or something processes better in your brain, what have you. But still, it's like you can still do that, but like we said earlier, don't use it as a crutch, and don't use it for more than it is. I just don't want to say to use the word. I don't want to put this idea that we control our lives by controlling external input. I don't know. I think that's the thing. It's like we can control our perspective, and I think that's the most valuable thing. Though technically we can control in the sense that we manifest eventually what we want or what we don't want, but if the focus is a certain way, I don't know. Okay.
I think what you're trying to say is similarly to what you already mentioned, right?
Yeah.
I have nothing against mediums or doing tarot readings. Question is, what are you using it for?
Right.
Same thing. What are you using it for? Are you not allowing your life to just unfold the way it is, and you constantly want to control and know the future before it comes so that you are ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's fear-based sometimes. And
all the time. It's not sometimes. It's fear-based, right? Because you're trying to prepare yourself for something ahead of time and not allowing life to just happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just trying to control.
Yeah.
And we're not, even though we are technically in control, because our conscious mind is constantly in control of our reality, because it creates our reality, which we don't understand how to create our reality with our beliefs. Right? But at the same time, the conscious mind wants to control on top of that. But you're still here to learn lessons. You're still here to experience. You're not here to have a happily ever after life. I'm sorry. That's not what this experience is.
I mean, occasionally some people get that little treat once in a while, but for the most part, I agree.
I wouldn't even call it a treat, because you're still waiting for the good parts. You're still kind of, okay, I'm going to suffer through the bad parts and I'm waiting for the good parts, where the idea is to not suffer at all. Right? I've said this in previous podcasts, that it's not that something as bad is happening to you, is how you're receiving it.
Responsibility.
How you're responding to it. You can respond to it in ways where, well, I don't want this happening, and I want to shut it down and shut down all my emotions and just pretend like it was never here. Right? Or you open yourself up and you decide to, okay, what is it that I need to learn from this? Because I created this for myself, and take responsibility, as you said. So synchronicities are there, I think, just as a positive way of helping us to move forward, or kind of like cheerleaders.
Well, I also think that synchronicities can expand beyond like the little like numbers or little objects we see. Sometimes it could be people we run into. Sometimes we'll have a synchronicity of, like, you ever have that running into people randomly, or certain people at certain times. That can be too. Anything really can be a synchronicity, but if it's more expanded to a person, even animal, or something that is more living, sometimes we have things that we are meant to do with them in that moment in our time, like we were talking about experiences and lessons and that sort of thing. So if you ever run it, because I'm sure people will be wondering too about like that sort of coincidence, which I don't believe in coincidences anymore, really, for the most part. Something's always meant to happen in a certain alignment. And if you happen to run into certain people in certain parts of your lives at a certain time, it could be just one time, or it could be multiple times. Mm-hmm. There's something that needs to happen. You might not get the clear message right away as to why and how, but again, if you don't control it and allow it to flow, then you'll see the benefits of it a lot of the time. So yeah, and there's some really cool stories out there I've heard. There's this one, I think I saw it on some sort of social media thing, where it was a girl. She went to, in different parts of her life, she kept running into this one guy, and they don't end up being together, but it's like she'll go in completely opposite ends of the world, and at specific time that they would meet up. It just happens. They're not feeling on a conscious level that they're attracting each other, but they keep bumping into each other. And this was a real story. She's just like, what do you guys think is going on with this person? Like, he's happily married. I am too. It's not about that, but we keep running into each other. So it's like, what is this, So obviously it's something for them to figure out. And obviously to me, on my perspective is, like you said, we're here with soul groups. We're here to support each other at different times for different reasons. And that just happens to be one potential. Like, oh, you're going to bump into each other when you both need a certain energy or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, the same way if a synchronicity happens like that, and let's say they see each other, and I'm just making this one up, and then they start dating. A lot of the times we'll feel and we'll think, oh my God, this is it. This is my person for the rest of my life. Nope. This is your person for right now.
Yeah.
You were brought together for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that it will be for the rest of your life, but most likely not. But it is something that you can learn from. This is a person that you need to learn from, or you need to help each other with something. Right? And actual physical relationship is really up to us. Right? You could just stay friends and still help each other out. So I feel like we're coming, or maybe it's in my work, I see it all the time, but we're constantly as humans looking for that companionship, looking for that someone to love us, someone for us to love. And we sometimes, or maybe it's meant to be, I don't know. We look at it mostly from that standpoint of, oh, this is the one for me, all the synchronicities, all, we've been to, I'm just using your example. I've seen them there. I've seen them here. We need to be together. No, maybe we just need to be friends. And it's good that your friend is happily married and the other person is happily married, because then they don't have that belief. It doesn't come into their mind that, well, maybe it's because we got to be happily ever after. And you're right. Maybe both of their energies were needed, because they might be a soul part of the same soul group that was needed in that place and wherever they were before, and then somewhere else. Maybe that's all it is. We'll never know. Or maybe we will.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends.
It really depends. But synchronicities are fun, and they really are everywhere around us.
Yeah. If you want to pay attention to it, if you want it in your life, you can attract that. So yeah, share with us. What do you think? Do you like to have synchronicities pop up? Have you had it? Would you like it if you don't? Share your perspective here. I would love to hear.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like the higher in vibration you rise, the more you notice and the more synchronicities around you start happening. What do you feel about that?
I feel immediately not necessarily, but if you're on a rising point, it's more potential to do so. I feel like if you're, and I think rising doesn't make the right word, but like if you're more in alignment to what you need to do advancingly, yes. But I don't know if it's a high frequency.
Well, as you rise in frequency.
You rise, but I mean, if you can. Okay, I'm not. That's a whole different story. Another topic. But yes.
Let me reframe this. Not as you're higher in frequency, but as you're rising within your frequency.
If you're moving forward in your frequency path,
yes.
Sure, I'll use it that way. If you're moving along and you're not resisting, and you're not going backwards from which it happens sometimes, and it's okay. But even then, I feel like if you start getting it and you can get it, I think it's harder to undo it. It's almost like kind of, I don't know. Maybe I'm just interjecting there and biased.
What would you say the difference between synchronicity and manifestations? Manifesting is?
I feel like it's subtle. I feel like it's not that far apart. But it's more of a in the moment. The synchronicity is giving you the in the moment thing, like idea, feel, expression. Manifesting is you're pushing anything forward. So it's almost it's a now versus pushing it forward. It's more of a assessment in the moment, though it could be like a little bit ahead potentially, like I guess in synchronous, on the other side there's no time, so I think there's like alignments where you can kind of jump forward a smidge, and that might be, some people might see things and see it as like a future thing. Again, if we don't rely on it, having that, it would be kind of interesting and neat to experience, but it's very subtle. It's just pulling it out from, or pushing out the energy. Is it pushing and pulling?
Well, I've had an instance where I would think that, well, I need this, whatever it is. It could be some sort of, I don't know, machine. I don't know, for cooking. Let's just put it that way. And then I will be meeting a friend, or I'll be going to her house, and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting a new one. You know, do you want this machine?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's literally, I was just thinking about it, like on the way here, that I need to stop by the store and get it. And you're giving me one for free. So would that be in synchronicity or manifestation, or a combination?" Because I didn't combination, because I didn't technically ask for it or put it down. It was a thought that I needed. Right? So we are able, I guess, to manifest a synchronicity or synchronize a manifestation.
Well, I guess it depends, and that's the part we might not know. Like, maybe there's a reason for you to have that alignment, to have that thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it just happened to be in that moment. Like, hey, I want that right now. It's like, maybe you just knew that that's coming on a certain level because that's gonna come. I don't know. It could be any of those things. That's too much, too subtle, but it's still very close.
And I also wonder if our team on the other side is like, okay, she needs this. What can we move and how to provide this for her? Oh, this person doesn't need it.
It just happens.
Just putting the two together, and it's fun.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, I think that happens too. I like, oh, she's not specifically choosing when or how or what, but it just happens to be, oh, you can get it right now. Why not make it happen?
Right. It's very interesting. So put down in the comments anything that you've had, because I feel like if we think back, there's so many that we can think of.
Yeah.
So many. Did I tell you this synchronicity? This was a while back when my mom and I were looking for an apartment back in the days. I was young, and we met up with this real estate agent, and one of my sisters was studying to be a lawyer, and we met up with this woman, and she was telling us about her son, that he just finished law school, such like a nice guy. Of course, that's what she would say. He was a nice guy. So the real estate lawyer, the real estate woman was like, "We should introduce them. Your daughter is going to be a lawyer. My son is already a lawyer. Let's introduce them. You know, we're both Russian Jewish, right?" And then it's, all of that. So nothing came of it. I think she was the one who found us a house, but nothing, they never met. And then one day my sister, I don't know how much longer, like a couple of months forward, I don't know how much time passed. She brings in a guy, and that she met. He's a lawyer. He just became a lawyer, and that's that woman's son. So they met on their own without
your help.
But it's kind of like the thought was already put somewhere out there, or maybe they were already meant to meet, and this was just a pre.
Right. Could have gave them opportunity to meet sooner, but they chose not to. So it could happen that way. Who knows? It's so much options and so many variables and things that can shift and change all the time. Even if you're quote unquote fated to be with certain people in your life because of whatever agreements you make beforehand or whatnot, it can shift in how it presents itself. And I think that's what makes it beautiful and fun and challenging at the same time.
Yeah. And by the way, they did not stay together for happily ever after. Sorry.
Okay.
They came together to learn specific lessons, and whether or not they learned them, it's up to them. I don't know. I'm not my life, so I can't really judge. But they needed to see each other or to meet for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. And it could be a layup for something in the future too. Like it could be an example, like you meet someone, and we'll throw in that twin flame thing because people like it. Listen, you meet your twin flame at some point, but then you break up suddenly and tragically and whatever. But then you have all these other relationships before and after, and then like down the line, you're going on this healing process for yourself from all those terrible relationships, including the twin flame that you had. And then you look back, and that's when you start assessing and healing and all these things that we also do. And then you're like, oh, I needed that connection with my twin flame right now, that time, because first it helped make it easier, and it bridged me into this other relationship, and then you start seeing these other patterns. But that twin flame was such a important role in that moment because it helped you in a specific way. And I guess that's one alignment you can say, is that in the moment you might not know. You might not know at all for any reason, because you're not meant to until you're on a certain path. You've learned certain things, you've experienced certain things, and then you're like, oh, now I get to understand it more. So I would say that even if there's synchronicities out there and you're like, what the heck is this all about? And you're like, it's there. I just can't figure it out. Is something wrong with me? It's like, no, it's just maybe you're not meant to know what it is in the moment. So
At the moment, yeah. And that's releasing control.
Yeah.
Releasing control and allowing things to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for everyone to put down your synchronicities. I'm excited to read them.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to our podcast today. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
And comment. It'd be fun to have more comments. So please do. Yeah. And
so what are we doing next? What are we talking about next time?
We have a teaser of, let's see, what is it? Oh, yes, we're going to actually share some experience on what we do, whether it's QHHT or our sessions that we give readings for other people. With me, a lot of my sessions come out like a QHHT session, but I just experience it for the client. So it'll be interesting to talk about and share some of our experiences. So yeah. Come on and check it out.
Yeah. Don't forget to come back and listen.
Bye.
Have a good week, everyone.
Ciao.